Welcome to Land Academy. This is the Cash Flow from Land show, where we show you how to buy unwanted vacant land and sell it for more on the internet. I'm Steve Butala.
I'm Jill DeWitt.
We are your hosts. With over 15,000 completed transactions, we are the experts in this niche land flipping business.
We hold a drawing to win a free property every month. Enter to win by reviewing this show on iTunes and downloading our free ebook at landacademy.com. All right, let's get this show started.
Steve Butala here for Land Academy. Welcome to the Cash Flow from Land show. Today, Jill and I talk with Pat Hiban. He's been on the New York Times bestseller list as an author, and he's also, for quite some time, he has been in the past, he isn't now, the number one RE/MAX real estate agent in the world. Pat has not always been a semi-retired New York Times International best-selling author, podcast host, entrepreneur, and billion-dollar real estate agent. After throwing his graduation cap up at Frostburg State University in the summer of 1987, he set out to find that necessary three-letter word, J-O-B. While trying to get his real estate license, Pat substitute taught in Maryland, where he's lived his entire life. Now to the good stuff. His first year in real estate was decent, selling 10 homes and taking home about $13,700 in commissions. But Pat knew he needed more. At the beginning of his third year in the industry, attending Floyd Wickman Sweat Hog course changed his life, and it allowed him to realize that being a listing agent was the way to go. He made a commitment, and he switched to prospecting regularly for listings by calling up and down every single street in town looking for future sellers. Boom, business for him tripled. And Pat became, in 2004, the number one RE/MAX agent in the world. After earning the number one agent in the world with two different companies, Pat decided to write his book, which was published in 2011, 6 Steps to 7 Figures, a real estate professional's guide to building wealth and creating your destiny. During launch week, Pat's book became number 6 on the New York Times bestseller list, number 2 on the USA Today bestsellers list, and number 1 on Barnes & Noble. In 2014, Pat decided to embark on a mission to share his knowledge and his knowledge with others throughout the world through his podcast, Pat Hiban Interviews Real Estate Rock Stars. Pat, welcome. I'd love to know personally, what does it take to become a bestseller, to make it on the New York Times best-selling author list?
Well, okay, so let me answer the question. I mean, basically, a couple of things. When I wrote my book, you had to have 9,000 sales in a week. But the week that they tracked, and this was, even though it was only, I think it was 2011, so it was like, it wasn't even that. It was, here, we're 16. So anyways, let's say it was 4 years ago. Then basically the way they tracked is the first week. It's sort of like a record that comes out, a hit single comes out, right? It's only like in the top 40 that week, right? So it doesn't count the next week or the next week. Otherwise, like the Bible or, Huckleberry Finn, stuff like that would be in the bestseller list, and it never is. It's just that week. So what the scam is, and the whole thing's a scam, but it's what the game you have to play is you go speaking ahead of time, and you say, I'll speak, to you guys, and I'll charge you this, but really you just buy all these books from me, and you give me your home address. So you just start collecting home addresses, and I went on tour for 7 months, and I just collected home addresses of people that, I spoke to. And then I was lucky enough to go to a Keller Williams convention where Gary Keller had me on stage, and Gary's like, he's like Oprah Winfrey, right? He says, read this book, everybody reads it. So he told everybody not only read the book, but buy 5 and give out 4 so that you can discuss it with everybody, and it'll sink in better if you're discussing it in like a little book club. So all of a sudden, all these people came. I sold 3,000 books on that day, which happened to be like the day before the first week. And then I sold another 7,000 books in my speaking engagements for the 7 months prior. And then we ordered all the books on the same day or 2 days in the first week. That's how I did it.
That's super interesting. Every time I give a live talk, the first sentence that I say when I start the talk is, "Hey, we all just want the truth, and man, you just gave it to us. I appreciate it."
It's even harder now because I have a friend, David Osborne, who's writing a book now, and he's trying to do the same thing, and it's they've upped the standards. Now you got to buy. Now certain people have to buy audio books, in addition to paperback, in addition to ebooks. I mean, it's got to be all different types. It's more complicated now, and I think the number has gone up from 9,000 because people figured it out. There's even services out there that will actually, and I didn't use this, but I could have paid for services where they rent PO boxes. There's this guy like in Nevada has like 1,000 PO boxes, or thousands of PO boxes, and they will ship a book because each book has to go to a separate address. You can't have one guy order 10,000 books and say I'm on the bestseller list.
Wow.
Because these rich people would just buy 10,000 books, right? And say, "Oh, I'm on the bestseller list." So there's a guy that will rent you or whatever his PO boxes in Nevada, and you can just send like thousands of books to different PO boxes and then to get on the list, and it's a business for him. He's got all kinds of authors doing it.
So it's books shipped, not sold.
Yeah, it's definitely shipped, and it has to be a separate address completely. You have to get the home address. Like I would speak at real estate offices, and there'd be 100 agents in the room, and the office manager would like, "Oh, this is a pain in the ass to fill out all these forms. Why don't you just ship 100 books to the receptionist and she'll hand them out?" And I was like, "No, I can't do that. That's not the goal."
I'm going to retitle this show, Pat Hiban's Way to Scam Your Way Onto the New York Times Bestseller List. And I'll make sure your name is in bold.
I don't care. As long as you spell it right. I don't care.
I guess what we're all wondering is, what does it take to become you?
So that was 2004. And I had, built my team up. I think we're like, at that time it was 35, maybe 40 people on the team. And we did 508 units, and we did like $5.2 million worth of GCI, gross commission income. And, my net was like 28%. I mean, I don't mind disclosing that. So, it was over $1 million net. I mean, it was a great time, actually, and that was in 2004. The funny thing is now it's 2000 and, believe it or not, Jesus, 16 is almost 12 years ago, right? And now the top agents, and back then that was like, oh my God, you sold over 500 homes. That's like phenomenal. Now, like these top agents are doing like close to 3 times that much. Some of them are doing like 1,500 homes.
That's amazing. What did your staff look like to get those kind of deals done?
Now we got up to about 50 some people. The funny thing is I made more money in 2004 from real estate sales at 35 people. But then 2005, 2006, I added expenses because we went independent, and then we also opened a mortgage company, a title company, and those all cost money. So we were at we believe it or not, at 35 people, we made more from real estate commissions rather than other things, and profited more than in 2005 and 2006. But I had about 35 people at that time, and they all were kind of, working. And I didn't do any listing appointments. I had 3 people that did nothing but go to the appointment, get the listing, bring it back. I didn't do anything. I was just like the Wizard of Oz, that guy behind the curtain there. You know what I mean? They just used my face on all the ads.
That's truly amazing. You know, there's a guy here that does a lot of TV ads, and he's constantly coming up as the number one lister in the Phoenix market.
Yeah, Russell Shaw. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly who I'm talking about, Russell Shaw.
Yeah, he basically he taught me. He's a mentor of mine. I got into television in like 2001, and he taught me and allowed me to copy his commercial that he had been running word for word, and actually coached me through doing my first commercial ever way back then. And I owe a lot to him. He taught me a lot about television, so it worked. It was well. We did well with that.
So what's different about you that you can become the number one agent, or really just the best at anything that you set out to do? I mean, the number one slot, not 2 or 3.
I don't think I ever sought out at a young age, to be the best, to be the top, even agent in the office. I just sought out to like get the next deal and get more deals and more deals. It's kind of like there's some quote about an overnight success that took 20 years. It kind of felt like that, like it.
I call it the 2-year overnight success.
Yeah. So for me, it was, I started in 1987, so that was 97. So say 17 years. So I had been doing it 17 years, and I think some of it was luck in that. For say 14 years or 13 years, I had been building slowly this team, and I kind of equated to like a surfboard. Like I had been building this really Mac Daddy surfboard that was very aerodynamic. And as soon as the wave hit, meaning the real estate wave, I was able to take that surfboard and put it on there, and it surfed better than anybody else's surfboard. And I was able to ride that many more waves. And I just was able to make a ton of money, quite frankly, just because I had that awesome surfboard at the right time when the tsunami hit.
All of us were left for dead in the real estate business during the downturn. So what did you do during that time, or how did you handle it?
So what I did is, like in 2010, okay, because what goes up must come down. We had we got thrown down like a sumo wrestler. We got picked up and then thrown down. And in 2010, I was disgusted. I was, I just was like, this sucks. We had a bunch of liabilities that we got left with. One year, it was 2007, I fired 22 people in 1 year. And so in 2010, I was like, man, I've had enough. I've been there, done that. I don't need to do this anymore. And I wanted to just bail. But my partner, Mike Sloan, and I worked at a deal where he took over the business. He took over the real estate business, and he runs it today. And we're able to split the profits. And he's got a great setup there, and he's doing well. And I'm happy. And so he still runs the Pat Ivan Real Estate Group. And last year they sold, I think, 280 houses, something like that. So. No, actually, they broke 300. So I think they sold 302 houses, something like that. And then, so they're doing great. And I actually moved to South Carolina. I have a house in Baltimore still, but also one in South Carolina. I spend more time in South Carolina, and that's where I am today, talking to you. And so I just go back and forth. And I was able to invest in properties and apartment buildings, in shopping centers and things like that. So I have currently 54 horizontal streams. I have lines of income. We call them horizontal streams that could potentially pay me. I don't want to say they all pay me, because they don't, but they could potentially pay me. And several are single family homes, several are commercial real estate, several are private companies that I invested in that pay sideways, essentially pay my bills. And then I do the real estate podcast as a way to have fun, a way to give back. And I also am in the process of developing some products for real estate agents on how to never lose a listing appointment, or how to build a team, and I'm going to be coming out with those basically later this year. So, I'm staying active, but the majority of my money comes from horizontal sources.
We have a product in the works that helps real estate agents get listings through sending out direct mail offers to a targeted area and for a price that's relatively lower than the asking price or the going for rate or sales comps in the area. And when the seller or owner calls back, the listing gets converted, or the acquisition gets converted to a listing, I should say.
Does it So how does it? Is it you just pick a neighborhood, or does it help you target?
Right. So how it works is you send a direct mail offer to an area that you've identified as relatively consistent, and one of two things happens: the owner contacts you and says, "Heck yes, I do actually want to sell my house to you for that price," or "No way, the price is too low," and then that's how the agent then converts the potential acquisition to a listing.
That's great. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I have a question for Pat about what's it like, in the real estate industry? There's a lot of women. What's it like, working with a lot of women?
That's funny. When I got in the business in 1987, I talk about this in my book. It was way more women than it is. I was at a company that had 41 agents, I think. And guess how many men?
Like 2?
1.
Oh, that's it. There you go.
Yeah, and that's what it was. It was like a teacher, right? In 1987, yeah. It was like teachers, and it was all women. And then over time, so I look at it now and I'm like, man, there's a lot of men in this business. It's become much more of a full-time industry and much more of a pretty balanced. I don't know what the ratio is now. Do you know? I would guess it's 50-50, but it's hard to tell. It used to be a lot. It used to be way slated. And there also used to be a generation gap. Like when I got in the business, like I was 21, and the youngest agent next to me was like 40 something. Clearly there was a huge generation gap of real estate. I didn't start seeing younger agents, like really younger, like 21. And then now there's some agents that are 18 years old that I know. I didn't see any of that until like the last decade. That's something, I don't know why, but it wasn't considered a profession for younger people.
When I was in college, I went to school with a guy that got dressed up every morning. And, months later, I found out he was going into a real estate office and selling the heck out of local real estate as a licensed agent. And the guy made so much money that he left school and actually became a real estate agent pretty successfully as a late teen, early 20s.
Well, it happened. That happens, people think, they go to college. It just happened to my daughter's boyfriend. He was a university student, business student, and or that was his plan. And he did a flip, and he made so much money on the flip that he started thinking, what am I going to make even with a degree? And then and I'm not recommending this certainly, but
right.
But he started meeting other people and through some groups, and there was some bunch of other young guys in there that didn't go to college that were doing flips and making money in real estate, and he's like, hey, I don't need this. So it's for the right person, you know what I mean? There's a lot of good attributes to college. If anything, it teaches you socialization, and it teaches you, how to get done under a deadline, which a lot of kids nowadays can't meet deadlines, so anyways, but for the right people, I understand why he did it.
Do you think, Pat, that part of your success is innately who you are? Are you, if it weren't real estate, would you be the best surfer out there? Would you be the whatever, or is that just in you? Or did you, what is it about you?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it would be the best of anything, but it would be the best of my unfair advantage. Like where my brilliance lied. Like I didn't know until I was about 20 that I had an unfair advantage in speaking to people or selling things until I got my first job selling something, and then on the first day I got like a salesman of the day, and I was 20 years old, and I was like, to me that was life changing. I was like, maybe there's something here. And actually from that point forward, I never took a non-commission. I never had a non-commissioned job other than that substitute teaching thing. I never traded time for money after that. I only took commission jobs because I made so much money on a summer job that was commission based that it was kind of like what we were just saying with the guy that was in your dorm, right? I just made so much money that I was like, I'll never make an hourly wage again. It just can't pay me enough, and this is my unfair advantage. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
That's a fantastic way to describe that, as an unfair advantage. I just wrote that down, actually. We'll do a whole podcast, Jill and I, on that. But how much is really hard work, and then how much is talent?
Well, that's what it is. One of my favorite interviews is an interview with Will Smith, and they're like, dude, like your TV show, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, it was funny, but it wasn't. I mean, you're not. There's more funny comedians. There's as far as actors, you're good, but you're not great. You're not dramatic at all. You know what I mean? Right. You're kind of canned. All that stuff, and so they're like, what is it? I mean, how are you? Like all this success and fame, and he's like, here's the thing: if I stand next to you on a treadmill and you're on a treadmill, you will get off that treadmill before I do. He said, I will outwalk you. I will outwork you. He said, there's no one in Hollywood that outworks Will Smith. I was like, damn.
Oh, that's good.
Jill, maybe we're not shooting high enough on our guest list, because if this guy can get Will Smith and we're just horsing around with like Pat Hiban, we got to shoot a little higher on this guest list thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Pat, I've always wondered what the typical commission structure is on, let's say, like $100,000 sale of a house. The buy side commission, the sell side commission, how much the brokers take out. What's a typical $100,000 transaction? What do agents typically net out of that?
Well, that's tricky because here's the problem. So I'm a licensed broker. I'm also a licensed agent. And I have a podcast, and I write. I have a podcast that has, agents from all different companies on there, and so I'm influential, let's say, to agents at Prudential and agents at Berkshire Hathaway and Remax and Keller Williams and Long and Foster and Coldwell Banker. Blah blah blah. The reason I'm telling you this is because it puts me in a different position in that. I don't want to have any antitrust issues of saying, do this because I'm influential, so to speak, to other agents. So I don't want it to come across and say, Pat Hiban recommends this, let's all do it. And the next thing you know, I got the fucking FBI knocking at my door. So I can't answer that question. I mean, every market is different. I've had a lot of agents that I've discussed this with say, we keep a portion here and they keep a portion. They keep, whether it's 50-50, 40-60, whatever. I mean, I can answer questions that I know about how Remax works or how Keller Williams works with regards to their commission split with their agents, but I can't talk about what it is to the consumer because it's not fair to the consumer. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Got it. So what's next, Pat? What do you? I know you got some products coming up. Are there any bigger things that you're working on?
Yeah. What's your number 55 income stream?
Yes.
It's intellectual property. So I have my book, and sells a certain amount, and like 5 a day, nothing big, but a couple bucks here a day. I think I make $5 a book, $25 a day. But the thing is, I did my audio book about a year ago, and I make more money on that audio book. Not a lot. I think like 300. My last check was $325 for a month, right? So but it was enough to be like, hey, that's nice passive income, right? $325. So
yeah.
So I said, and all I did was like talking to a microphone for 2 days, kind of reading my book. And I said, that was kind of a neat thing to do. So what I did is I created a video course. I actually sat down with 8 of the world's top agents, and I had them do their listing presentation in front of me. And I pretended like I was a seller, and they kind of sold me on why to use them. And then we sat for an hour afterwards, and we talked about it. Why'd you say this? Why'd you say that? Why'd you do this? And then I took it and I chopped it all up into bite-sized pieces that show, like, if you want to learn how to build rapport, go to this chapter and watch these 8 agents talk about building rapport. If you want to learn how to talk about commission, go to this. And by the way, all the commission's bleeped out. The numbers are bleeped out for the same reason, because there's all different companies in there. But if you want to learn how to, talk about price, go to this chapter and watch it. And it's like a 20-hour video course, and we're going to sell for like $499. And and that is going to be, once it's done and made, then I put it on this website, and it just sells. And there's an agent in Omaha, Nebraska named Jeff Cohn, who together, him and I are building a team building, because he went from being brand new in the business 4 years ago to last year he sold 650 homes. So we're going to talk about how to build a team and how he does that. And I'm going to sell that too. So those are the things I'm working on now, and they become intellectual property, which is same thing as a book. Once it's done, hopefully it'll be timeless, and I'll just get these little, direct deposits in my account.
Mm-hmm.
I also have a company that I own a quarter of, 25% of, that I started with a couple other guys. It's called GoBundance, and it's a men's business mastermind. And essentially what we do is we get together and we go hiking or fishing or motorcycle riding or bike riding, just fun stuff that guys like to do. And then we talk about money, and we talk about health, and we talk about things, that, are important to us. And so that's called GoBundance, and that's going really well. We have 102 members now in the tribe. We're getting ready to go to Vietnam. And originally I thought, some of these, a 2-week trip to Vietnam, who's going to sign up for that? Who's going to be able to get away from their families, and who's going to be able to afford it? And I have 24 guys going. So it's amazing. Yeah.
So you guys talk about women then on these trips, right?
Of course.
I was just thinking that too. I'm making some notes. I'm like, wonder what else they talk about.
Right?
And I'm sure there's no alcohol involved in all this.
Oh, yeah. Alcohol, drugs. We have a whole deck of cards that we have with questions on that are really, really profound, deep questions. There's 200 of these questions, like really like stuff that if you're hiking, like we did Machu Picchu last year, and we hiked for like 6 days on the Inca Trail. So you don't have podcasts to listen to and things like that. So you got to talk, and it's a bonding experience. So it's just very things that make you think, like what's the biggest failure of your life, stuff like that. If you could change one thing, what would it be? If you could meet one person, who would it be? Stuff like that. And we go really, really deep, really fast, and keep it that way. So it's a great time.
Pat, it's been a true pleasure speaking with you, and I think you really embody what we're all after. If we want to get a hold of you, where can we find you on the internet?
Yeah, you could just Google me. I mean, I'm all out there. I mean, my podcast website is Hiban Digital, hibandigital.com, and one of my main websites is just my name, pathiban.com.
Yeah, have a blast in Vietnam, and please look us up when you get back. We'd love to have you on the show again.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Great. Thanks, Pat.
What an interesting guy.
Oh, totally. He was so nice. That was really fun.
I think he was really sincere about everything.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, sometimes you speak with people. We've had people on our show, and they just they kind of skip along the top and don't give you any real information. They kind of tout their own horn, and I really think right from the very beginning, he just said, "Hey, this is how you get a bestseller list." You know, so it's not all cracked up to what you think it is.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you said it perfectly too. We all just want the truth. We know there's a trick. Let's all be honest, everyone, and that's okay.
What's the trick to flipping land? Is there like a summary trick like that? Like, oh, I got away with it? I don't think so. I think you got to buy it and sell it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and volume. I mean, the more look at what he did. How many homes and they're doing in a year? That's how you make that money. You know what? That was a really good point I just thought about, because we have a lot of people that say, why would I do 10 when I could do 1? Well, look at Pat. Mm-hmm. They're doing 300 for a reason, to get them up there. They're not just doing 4 that are, $20 million homes. Right. We're only going to do 4. No. They're doing 302 in a year. And I bet there's a huge range,
sure,
in the price of the homes and stuff. Makes sense. Up your numbers.
Getting all these agents and the best top agents in the world in a room and lining up next to each other is just brilliant.
That's fun.
What I wrote down while he was saying that is we should get all the top 5 land flippers in a room all at once,
mm-hmm,
on a stage, and just talk about what it takes.
We're going to kind of do that at our live event.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. Exactly. So you're reading my mind.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of what we could do. And I just think it's really interesting to get 5 of anybody in a room and pick their brain, especially if they're really seasoned at whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. I agree. That was really cool. That was funny, the numbers of the women. And it's interesting how the industry has changed over the years.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. Every woman was only a real estate agent, not so much men. And now there's a lot of men and successful men. So it's kind of nice for us to have, for the girls to, at least for a while, we dominated one area. And it wasn't secretary.
I think back in the 70s and 80s, before the internet, I think being a real estate agent was a side job for a housewife. I think it's so different now. There's so much more strategy involved.
Interesting.
I don't know.
Well, I think too, women are decorators traditionally. We know,
Mm-hmm.
that
yeah,
kind of thing. So we would be good at, making a house look good and baking the cookies and selling it and talking to people. There's a lot of things about that goes into it that just comes naturally to women,
mm-hmm,
too. So that's cool. So he's in South Carolina. That's cool.
Yeah,
I like it there.
We're watching the Pacific Ocean. He's watching the Atlantic right now.
He's drinking a mint julep. That's awesome.
So I got to go now and instruct my producers where to bleep out potty mouth here. I haven't had anybody say bad words on a show like that ever.
I know, it was kind of funny. I was like, oops. I'll get. I wonder what his show. His show must be explicit. You can do whatever. Yeah. It's kind of funny.
Maybe that, I wasn't joking about that salesman thing. I said women and he starts saying virginity and stuff. I mean, that's truly the Dale Carnegie way to get what you want. Hey, yeah, just like you said. And then you say something all completely different.
Mm-hmm.
That sealed the lid on it for me about believing that this guy really did accomplish that.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Thank you, Joe.
Got it.
On this note, let's go buy some property.
We hold a drawing to win a free property every month. Enter to win by reviewing this show on iTunes and downloading our free ebook at landacademy.com.
If you want to get involved or you need more information about our profitable, niche real estate operation, call 480-467-0359. You just might get Jill at the other end of the line.
landacademy.com. You are not alone in your real estate ambition.